And here we were, some kind of fist size or smaller shrew or some kind of rodent running underfoot, trying to avoid becoming hors d'oeuvres for T-Rex. And that's how it would have stayed if the dinosaurs didn't just get unlucky. And an asteroid takes them out, pries open the niche, an ecological niche that allows mammals to evolve into something more ambitious than a rodent. Meanwhile, rodents are still among us. So I want to impress upon people, if they didn't otherwise sort of wrap their head around it, that we went from rodents to humans in 65 million years, and that's a vanishingly small fraction of a billion years, and Earth has been around for 4 billion years. Now, here's the tricky part. If you line up, this is a little thought experiment, if you just lay Earth's timeline out on the wall, left to right, beginning to end, and then you walk up to it, you don't know where you are, and you pin the tail. Most of the places on that timeline you pin it, Earth only had single-celled life. Complex life was relatively late, last 500 million years. And then what we call intelligent life in big brain mammals, even smaller than that. The point is, if Earth is any indication, if it ever gets to that, then it's fast. Or the other side, flip side of that is, imagine the asteroid never came. There'd still be dinosaurs here today. You know how I know that? Because dinosaurs were around as a community for 300 million years before the asteroid. So what this tells us is what we think of as intelligence clearly is not important for survival. Otherwise, roaches would have really big brains, right? So maybe the big mistake here is thinking that intelligence is an inevitable consequence of evolution, when all it would have taken was one broken branch. But then that could have taken out all the mammals from the vertebrate chain, and then we would not have anything like we think of today as intelligent creatures. That's how you get to win the argument in the end. You say, oh, what are the chances of that happening? 1 in a million? Okay, 1 in a million, and there's 100 billion star systems. So run the numbers. No one is thinking we're alone out there. I think the only sensible way to do it is to just, we have a sample of one. So let's just start with that and ask, what fraction of the total timeline of Earth has Earth had what we would call intelligent life, big-brained life? And what fraction of that period has it had intelligent, the Drake equation, and what fraction of that period has intelligent life with technology? So if you do that, then that gives you a set of fractions that you can layer onto the entire stellar population of the galaxy. And even using highly conservative estimates, you do not come out with us being the only life form around. If you look at the actual map of the galaxy where we have found these 4,000 exoplanets, it's this tiny little circle around. The star has to be close enough to get good data to know whether it has another planet around it. And you say to yourself, gosh, this is what leads to that analogy that comes from the SETI Institute, where they say, if you're going to say, well, how could have we found life? We haven't found life yet. And that's like taking a cup, an empty glass, and scooping it into the ocean and pulling it out and saying, the ocean has no whales from this tiny sample of the vast ocean that you know you have yet to search. If you're on the moon, how well can you see sort of cities on Earth? Not very well. But if you're going to go 250,000 miles away from them and stand on the moon, become much less visible. And that's our nearest neighbor in space. Space is vast. So to directly image a planet, yes, that could be on our horizon, but to image it in a way where we're going to see roads and cities, I think that's unrealistic. But I say that, but smiling because I know what we're already up to. All right. You want to see life forms waving back at you. What I want to see is any evidence in the atmosphere that anybody's alive on that planet's surface. These are, we call them collectively biomarkers. So we only have oxygen because we have life. That's the only reason. And not only because we have life, the life is constantly making oxygen, because oxygen chemically is highly reactive. So if you start out with a planet that's born with oxygen, it'll go away. It is going to react with all manner of things, and it'll go to zero in very little time. So the fact that we have an active fraction, 21% air of oxygen, tells you something is constantly making it, and that's the photosynthesis in plant life. So if you find a planet that has a stable supply of oxygen, Oh my gosh, bump that to the top of the list. And there are other unstable molecules like methane, although there are other ways you can make methane. But the people who are in the business of studying the chemistry of atmospheres, they've got a laundry list of molecules that will be the product of all kinds of life that we know goes on here on Earth. So we have this cottage industry of people studying the atmospheres of exoplanets now that we have the catalogs of exoplanets ready for our perusal. And I think that's where the answers are going to come. I don't know. If I don't know, I'm going to say I don't know. There are people, though, among us who, when they don't know something, they still have to have an answer. Think of the people who spot UFOs in the sky. There's some light moving in a way they don't understand, so it's an unidentified flying object. But listen to what they do next. They say, wow, I don't know what I'm looking at. It must therefore be intelligent aliens visiting us from outer space. No, you have not justified. You can't say that you now know what it is after you just said you don't know what it is. In the 1960s and 70s, there were many, many reports of alien abductions. People said, the aliens came to me and they brought me in and then they released me. Do you have any footage? No, they took my camera. Or no, they zapped my film and now there's no image on the film. But there were countless stories. Well, now you can stream live from your camera anything that's going on in front of you. So if the aliens come and they want to abduct you, stream it. That would be instantly viral. Oh my gosh. You know, the stuff that goes viral is much less than that. A kitten that jumps to the table and falls, that goes viral? You don't think a video footage of an alien is not going to go viral instantly? But there's none. So I'm just saying, I'm thinking if we were being visited, somebody would have some good footage. If we were being visited, I'm thinking maybe Google satellite images would catch spaceships that are not airplanes moving on our surface. If we were being visited, I'm thinking we'd have something better than fuzzy monochromatic video of objects that apparently reveal themselves only to Navy pilots. All of what has been put forth as evidence for aliens, to me, is insufficient evidence to excite my interest, my research interest in devoting time to finding it out. But it definitely has excited other people. I have not stopped them. I am not saying defund the military program on UAPs, which of course is just updated UFO.
The public, it appears, seems to have this burning need to have an answer to what is unknown. And so you go from an abject statement of ignorance to an abject statement of certainty. So that is operating within us. Let's start there. Second, we know, not only from research in psychology, but simple empirical evidence in the history of science, that the lowest form of evidence that exists in this world is eyewitness testimony. It wouldn't matter if you saw a flying saucer. In science, even if you have something less controversial than a flying saucer, if you come into my lab and you say, you gotta believe me, I saw it, and you're one of my fellow scientists, I say, have some other kind of evidence that's not just you saw it. Because human perception system is rife with all ways of getting it wrong. But we don't like thinking of ourselves that way. We have high opinions of our human biology when in fact we should not. We are poor data-taking devices. That's why we have such a thing as science. So maybe you did see visitors from another part of the galaxy. I need more than your eyewitness testimony. And in modern times, I need more than your photograph. So there's some technology that crossed the galaxy. That's going to be some serious stuff to look at in the lab. Then we can have the conversation. Until then, I'm sorry. Go ahead, keep trying to find them. I'm not going to stop you. There are people who look up all the time. Like, for example, the community of amateur astronomers in the world. I was an amateur astronomer. We come out of a building, we look up. UFO sightings are not higher among amateur astronomers than they are in the general public. In fact, they're lower. You say, well, why is that so? Well, because we know what the hell we're looking at. Do you know there was a UFO sighting reported by a police officer, because we think that because you have a badge or you're a pilot or you're whatever, that your testimony is somehow better than that of an average person. It's all bad because we're human. So there was a police officer who was tracking a UFO that was swaying back and forth in the sky. Okay? Reported the squad car chasing a UFO. Later it turned out the cop car was chasing Venus and he was driving on a curved road. I have seen things which, without my background in meteorology and astronomy and looking up, I would have reported to the police department. Like orographic clouds that form above huge mountains that are circular. And they're above a tall mountain, which means wherever you are, the sun can set for you before it has set for the cloud, darkening the skies, yet the cloud is now illuminated by sunset colors, and it's circular. There have been reports of hovering circular UFOs with light beams on them because people are looking at this cloud formation on top of mountains. So, maybe we have been visited by aliens. Maybe they've even landed. But why do they land in like the farmer's yard and not like Times Square?